Velora, Nocturna, Vesper, and Cerbera stared at the thick dossier. The Jungle Pizzeria. Every page cataloged the same nightmare. Mechanical failures and staff gone missing without a trace. They loaded their gear into the van and drove through the city until the neon sign flickered to life in the dark. The air inside the building hung heavy, with the smell of old grease and ozone. They moved past the main stage, where the animatronics stood like stone sentinels. Deep in the security office, they found Noelle Hart hunched over a monitor, her fingers trembling against the desk. She looked up, her skin drained of color. "You should not have come," she whispered. Before anyone could answer, the grandfather clock in the corner began to chime. 12 strikes. Each one echoed through the hollow hallways like a hammer against a vault door. The lock on the main entrance clicked shut with a final metallic snap. The shift had begun, and the exit was gone. They were trapped until dawn. They stepped out of the office and into the dining area. The space felt wrong. A mechanical ape hung from a support beam, its fingers hooked into the metal, swaying slightly in a draft that did not exist. Near the stage, a tiger paced in a tight, repetitive circle, its metal joints clicking with every turn. A black panther crouched in the deepest shadows, its glass eyes catching the faint light. The team moved in a tight formation, weapons drawn, ears straining for the sound of servos or hydraulic hisses. They pushed through the swinging doors into the kitchen. The air here was even thicker, heavy with the scent of rotting fruit. Vesper pointed at the prep table. A massive pile of pizzas sat under the heat lamps, each one topped with thick, yellow slices of banana. Noelle stepped forward, her hand hovering near the edge of the counter. "This is all they want," she said, gesturing to the strange meal. "They do not hunt for food. They hunt for this." The team stared at the bizarre, grotesque feast, the reality of the situation settling in. They were not dealing with simple machine malfunctions. They were dealing with something far more deranged. The light above the prep table flickered once and died. Then the entire building vanished into absolute, suffocating darkness. The low hum of the generator cut out, leaving behind a silence so deep it felt pressurized. Velora reached out, her hand slamming into a cold, rusted metal wall. "Keep moving," she hissed, her voice barely a breath. They scrambled through the corridor, fingers hooked into the metal siding to guide their path. Every step felt like walking into a trap. Behind them, the metallic screech of grinding gears echoed through the ventilation shafts, growing louder with every passing second. They were not alone in the dark. Cerbera pushed ahead, her hands sweeping across the wall until they hit a heavy, iron lever, the fuse box. She ripped the old, blackened fuses out and jammed the new ones in with a frantic, desperate force. A spark jumped, illuminating the hallway for a fraction of a second. Then, the overhead lights buzzed to life, flickering into a steady, harsh glare. They stood frozen, chests heaving, the corridor suddenly visible and empty. But the sound of heavy, rhythmic footfalls remained, now just around the corner. The sound of heavy, dragging footfalls grew into a thunderous rhythm. Velora grabbed Vesper by the arm and pulled her down toward the floor. They dove beneath a heavy steel table, pressing their backs against the cold linoleum as the stomping stopped right beside them. A massive, metal-framed limb blocked their view, its surface scarred and rusted. The mechanical ape stood just feet away, its chest cavity heaving with the sound of grinding gears and hissing hydraulics. Every movement it made sounded like metal teeth chewing on stone. Noelle squeezed her eyes shut, her knuckles white as she gripped her weapon. The creature paused, its head rotating with a sharp, mechanical click, scanning the room. They held their breath, lungs burning, waiting for the inevitable detection. Then, with a sudden, violent lurch, the machine turned and stomped away, its footfalls shaking the floorboards. They did not wait for it to vanish. They scrambled up and bolted, feet pounding against the floor in a frantic sprint toward the security office. The corridors blurred past them as they pushed their bodies to the limit, the sound of their own panicked breathing echoing off the walls. They reached the office door, dove inside, and slammed it shut, chests heaving in the dark. Inside the office, the digital clock bled red numbers against the wall. 5:58 a.m. The air in the room felt thin, vibrating with an unseen tension. Then, the door didn't just open, it shattered. The Black Panther lunged through the wreckage, its eyes burning with an unnatural, crimson glow. It moved with lethal, liquid speed, closing the distance in a single bound. Noelle did not retreat. She lunged forward, thrusting the electric stick deep into the creature's chest. A violent arc of blue sparks showered the office, illuminating the room in a strobe light flicker. The beast shrieked a sound of grinding steel and dying circuitry before collapsing in a heavy, lifeless heap. Silence reclaimed the room. Then, the bell rang. 6 a.m. The shift was over. They stumbled out of the pizzeria, stepping into the cool, gray light of dawn. The street was empty, the air unnaturally still. As they looked back at the dark, silent building, the reality settled in. These machines were not merely malfunctioning. Something ancient and hungry had taken root within the metal, and it was not finished yet.